What's going on, guys? Billy here, and right off of the bat, let me just say that I am not a huge user of action cameras. My primary method of capture is from the air with a drone. That's what this entire YouTube channel is about, how to take better photos and videos with your drone. And it's also what I do for work outside of YouTube. So I'm a freelancer that works with construction companies, real estate agents, and really anybody that needs aerial photography and videography. So action cameras really just don't fit in the mix in my everyday shooting. Now, recently I took a trip out to Utah. I started up in Salt Lake City and then made my way down to Moab, and I wanted to push myself. I wanted to step outside of my comfort zone and make something that was a little bit different than what I usually do. So this go around, I didn't only fly my drone when I was traveling. I actually wanted to shoot quite a bit of content here on the new Action 4. So I met up with some awesome friends. I went dirt biking, I went go-karting. I tried to use the Action 4 how it was actually intended to be used and mounting it onto people doing some awesome stuff. So while this next portion of the video isn't going to be entirely filmed here on the Action 4, a really good portion of it was. So let me get you up to speed with what I've been up to over the past couple of weeks. Okay, so I definitely had a lot of fun bringing this action camera along with me. Again, an action camera usually doesn't make it into my bag when I'm traveling just because it's not my main method of capture. I'm usually bringing like 2 to 3 drones instead of a small little action camera, but I can now see the value in bringing an action camera with me for those times where you want to just mount a tiny camera in an area where there might be a lot of action. And speaking of mounting, DJI actually has also released some first-party mounts for their action cameras, which are awesome. These things are made really well. Now, for what I was doing out in the desert, the mounts that really came in handy were the chest strap and the handlebar mount. I can't tell you how much time I've spent over the years sifting through different third-party mounting options on Amazon. There are some good options out there, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to tell on the surface level if it's going to work or if it's going to be a cheap piece of crap, and usually you won't find out until it's too late and you potentially lose your camera. Just like the camera itself, the build quality of these accessories really are top-notch, which gives me some peace of mind knowing that I can trust my camera mounted in the tricky spots that I put it in. Speaking of build quality, quality, this camera, the Action 4, is built like an absolute tank, but unfortunately, for some of the things I was doing, this camera didn't fully make it. I've got a small little crack in the front screen, and the back screen has also seen better days. For those of you that might want a little more information as to what happened to this camera, I stupidly thought it would be a good idea to get an angle from underneath of the dirt bike that my friend Sam was riding, and it came back completely caked in dust, dirt, and a few signs of excess use, if you know what I mean. We did end up getting a couple of cool shots from this mounting point, but ultimately, I really wish I wouldn't have mounted it there. So with the design of the Action 4 being identical to the Action 3, basically sharing the same exact camera housing, they didn't have to do much to make this camera more rugged than it already was. And while I do miss the modular design of the little Action 2, I can understand why they wanted to go with something that was more functional, practical, and a little bit more traditional, like a typical action camera design here. Speaking of functional, I think my overall favorite thing about using the Action 4 was its dependability. Like, I knew that no matter what I needed to capture, I could reach for this camera and get a good result with it. And it comes down to two factors. It's not the image quality, it's not the build quality, it's not the resolution, it's not the different frame rates, but it's the battery life and the temperatures that you could use this camera in. For example, when I was riding out in the desert on these electric dirt bikes, I had the Action 4 mounted to my chest for the entire ride. We rode about 18 total miles over 2-ish hours of time, and I had this thing rolling for the whole ride. I even snuck in some drone flying, which I hilariously caught on camera as well, that added to the shooting time. Even in the over 100-degree weather, the camera didn't overheat and it was able to capture almost my entire ride. It wasn't until like the last 2 miles that it finally died on me. I probably would have been able to capture that whole ride if I didn't accidentally waste time filming myself flying my drone and stop the recording when I actually stopped riding the bike. Also, for these clips, I'm shooting in 4K at 60 FPS using the 4:3 aspect ratio and Rocksteady Plus. So I was basically maxing out what the camera could do, and it still didn't overheat, and the battery lasted for way longer than expected. Now, one of the things that is absolutely most important to me is battery life. It doesn't matter what piece of technology it is. It could be my laptop, my phone, a mirrorless camera, a wireless field recorder, it could be a drone, or in this case, it could be an action camera, right? Being able to have good battery life and also be able to manage batteries in an easy way always makes life easier. I don't want to have to worry about bringing extra batteries. I don't have to worry about going out of my way to charge batteries. And with the Action 4, it makes capturing video with it so easy. First of all, you get over 2 hours of estimated battery life with the Action 4 here. For me, I was shooting 4K 60, 4:3. I had Rocksteady Plus turned on, and I got around 2 hours of total shooting time, so that is great. But also, when you actually need to change batteries, you've got this awesome little charging hub, charging case. I mean, kind of, it acts like a portable battery. You just go ahead and you throw 3 batteries inside of here. It'll charge them up inside of the case, and then you can use them as you need to. And when you're ready to charge this case up, you can just plug one USB-C cable into it, and you're now charging the entire thing. So this really makes power management when on the go easy. You always know you'll have a fresh battery to pull, and you also have a ton of shooting time just with bringing like 4 total batteries with you. Now, another big use case of mine for action cameras is recording my Tesla using full self-driving. I like to make videos that showcase how the software is improving that get uploaded over to my second channel, and the Action 4 is my new go-to for this use case. Like I said, it's just so dependable and the battery lasts forever. I can use a suction cup to mount it to the roof of my car, turn it on to record, and then completely forget that it's even there, as I know it won't overheat and the battery will last for way longer than I usually shoot for. With the same use case over the past couple of months, I had been using the GoPro Hero 11 just because this was the newest action camera available, but it always frustrated me because this camera would overheat. Sometimes I'd be driving around for a little over an hour, so I'm recording for long periods of time, and when trying to record at a higher resolution using their electronic image stabilization Hypersmooth, it would just flat out overheat on me. I'd hear it beep in my ear, and then I'd have to pull over, pause my video, blast the AC, make the cabin super cold, let this thing cool down, and then from there continue on my drive. So that was super annoying, but it hasn't happened with the Action 4 again because this camera is so dependable. Staying on the topic of mounting the camera inside of my car, I want to point out the image quality and stabilization. This, of course, was captured in 4K, which gives us a nice sharp image, but I really want to highlight the dynamic range that this sensor is capable of putting out. The inside of my car is pretty dark with all of the black and wood finishes that eat up all of the light. This, paired with the strong sunlight beaming through the windows and the windshield, makes this a really difficult shot for the Action 4, but it gives us a really clean looking image with an even exposure across the entire frame. Like, you can see detail obviously through the windshield and through the side windows, but also you can see some detail down in the footwells where my feet are, which is really impressive because it's super dark in the car and super bright outside. The stabilization rock steady is also on point, but I think a better example of this is from some of the earlier clips that I shared while on the dirt bike. These trails that we were riding were not smooth in the slightest. There were big rocks, we were changing elevation, the terrain was overall very rough, but the Action 4 made it seem like we were riding on pavement with how smooth the video looks. Now, for those of you that really care about specs, I will include a little section here that actually covers the specs of the camera. For me personally, I really enjoyed just getting out and using this camera. I didn't get caught up in sensor size, resolutions, frame rates. I just made sure I was shooting in the highest resolution, kind of the highest frame rate at 60. I turned on rock steady and I just went and got some great shots, which says a lot about the camera. It makes it really easy to use. You just mount it, turn it on, start recording, and you'll get some awesome video regardless. By my definition, this is just another thing that makes this camera so reliable and so dependable, right? Not only is it the build quality, its ruggedness, not only is it the fact that it can work in some absurd temperatures on the high and low end, or the fact that it can record for a crazy long time on just one battery, but it's also the fact that when you mount it somewhere, it's going to get you a great looking shot no matter what. It'll be stable, the colors will be good, it'll be properly exposed, and it'll be nice and sharp. So this camera, in my opinion, is somewhat idiot proof, which is good because I need gear that is idiot proof. Now, if you guys want to check out some sample clips, some sample video captured with this camera, I'll leave it linked in the description below. It'll be over on my website. You can download it, check it out for yourself on your own computer, and look at these video files in their full resolution. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, our initial review on the Action 4. I'll have a couple of more pieces of content coming out on this camera over the next couple of weeks, so be sure to stay tuned here on the channel, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.